right, everybody, welcome back to On Texas Football. Welcome to the Tuesday night live stream here at On Texas Football. I am Jeff Howe, joined by, as always, on Tuesdays, as Rod Babers has dubbed him, the young prodigy here at OTF, CJ Vogel. And we got a third member tonight.
Old tired bones.
You see him on Coffee and Football. You see him all over the channel and over at OnTexasFootball.com. See him in Houston tomorrow night. He may sign your box of corn dogs. Jerry Hamilton joining us.
Yeah. They got it not cold, though. The Sharpie won't work.
No,
if I sign one, CJ's signing one, by the way.
Jerry's got the paint pens ready to go, CJ, for your for all your frozen corn dog boxes to get autographed tomorrow.
Well, I'm excited for tomorrow. I think that's going to be a lot of fun, Jerry. I mean,
yeah, I'm in for it. I'm in for it.
Save the corn dogs. Don't bring. It's not BYOC.
Last year I got a really good hat. We'll see if that same lady is back with her hats this year. So we'll break that one out tomorrow night.
I'd forgotten about that hat. Thank you for reminding me about that, Jerry. I'd forgotten about that. So yes, we are talking tomorrow. So it's the first of two live event / meet and greet / let's hang out and get ready for football season events with On Texas Football and the Third and Longhorn crew tomorrow night. We're in Houston from 5 to 8. Thursday, we're in San Antonio from 5 to 8. Jerry will be in the house. All jokes aside, Jerry and Bobby Burton for sure will be in the house tomorrow in Houston, and then I will be in San Antonio. CJ, are you doing either of these stops? I forget.
Yeah, I'll be at both.
There you
go. Start calling CJ the road dogs and see we'll be at both. So we'll tell you we'll get locations and all that stuff. So just make sure you got your head right for it. We will be out and about. Got a lot to get to on the show tonight. Real quick, I'll ask both you guys. I was busy handling OTF business today. I did not get to see the Vince Young documentary, which dropped on Netflix today, which a lot of people are buzzing about in the chat. I have not seen it yet.
I haven't either.
Jerry, CJ, either of you guys get the chance to see it yet?
No, I'm normally pretty late, Jeff, to all the great movies we've talked about. That I'll probably be pretty late to watching this one again. Just thinking about what should have been with Vince after his Texas career. I mean, it's not fun to think about.
Yeah.
Well, Jerry, I do know this. I don't need the documentary to know that probably by the end of this, I'm going to want to punch Jeff Fisher in the face.
Maybe so. Yeah, absolutely. I wonder if they started it against North Shore in the Astrodome in the high school playoffs when North Shore ran sprint draw on 4th and 20th with the season on the line and Vince playing free safety.
Yeah, that's
that would have been a good way to start it.
Well, you know, I don't want to get on this too much, Jerry, but like that Houston-Madison playoff run in 2001 with VY, like amazing. It's really for, you know, because let's face it, like Madison didn't have the resources of a Katy or a Schumer, but the fact that they got that close to playing for a state championship, and I think almost all of their games, Jerry, were in the Astrodome. There might have been a couple that were, there may have been a Rice Stadium mixed in there somewhere.
Yeah.
But if there's a reason why 25 years later, Jerry, not just in Houston, but in the state of Texas, we're still talking about that playoff run.
Yeah, there are two things happened in Houston back then that were awesome, and they came at the same time. It was T.J. Ford and Willeridge. They didn't graduate the same year. T.J. Ford and Willeridge were packing the house, Campbell Center, whatever, and then Vince had the Astrodome in the city of Houston rocking. And to have both of those guys together at the same time, that was a really cool time to live in Houston from a high school sports standpoint. Yeah, they both went to Texas. Obviously, on TJ's team, Daniel Ewing went to Duke, was a second-round pick. The running back, Courtney Lewis, on that Madison team went to A&M. William Winston also went to Texas from that team. But, man, that was as good a time in my life as I've seen in the Houston area for high school sports. I mean, Willeridge and the Wheatley teams are considered the best high school basketball teams ever come to Houston. And both those guys, TJ and Vince, they did it for different reasons. TJ was kind of the undersized, underdog, jet quick guy with just a great smile and leadership. And Vince was the larger-than-life guy playing quarterback in high school football. It was an amazing time to live in Houston and go to those games. It was a lot of fun. CJ would have loved it for sure, seeing 40,000, 50,000 in the Astrodome. For Vince Young's run, North Shore game. I think they lost to Westlake in the dome, or like either Katy, maybe it was Katy, but
It was Westlake, and
it was Westlake.
because then Westlake went to the title game
because
and
Vince threw for like 400 yards. Vince threw for like 400 yards, and they lost that game because Westlake took away his legs, and I mean he threw for a lot of yards, and they lost that game.
Yep. And what, like I said, Westlake beat Madison in the semifinals and went to the state title game and lost to Reggie McNeil and Lufkin.
That's when A&M thought Reggie was going to be the better of the two quarters because he won state.
Those debates happened, folks. They existed. Jerry, Houston Rap was also coming online big time at that point. I don't know if you were into that or not.
I was not.
Okay.
But I do remember it.
Okay. I didn't think you were at the forefront of it. CJ, let's go ahead and get down. We got a few things to talk about. We had Texas player availability today. CJ and I did a video on that. It's here on the channel. You can also get more of that over at ontexasfootball.com. But we'll talk about it here today, coming up in just a little bit. But guys, we got to get to the big news of the day. CJ, I'm gonna let you start this because I need to make sure that Jerry's drinking the Coke Zero. He's hyped up to talk about this. The SEC has joined the Big Ten, in that all former NFL, NBA, WNBA players not going to be allowed to compete. Otherwise, coaches will face suspension. We do have this comment, and let's start it off with Frank. Frank's comment said Cole Hudson cannot play now, correct? If he plays, Sark is suspended. So, CJ, my understanding is, as we sit here right now, because Cole Hudson did not formally declare for the draft, because he did not sign a contract and did not appear on an NFL roster, this new SEC rule does not apply to him.
Correct. And so right now, nothing has changed for Cole Hudson in terms of what he will be, or I guess what his plans will be this year, right? He will be suiting up for the Texas Longhorns as of now, right? This new ruling, this new decision from the SEC does not change Cole Hudson or the University of Texas. What this will have some implications is, well, look at LSU. Right, going out Daquan Wright, obviously big time name coming back. All the guys that played in a preseason game, all of the guys that were declaring for the NFL draft, no longer expected to be eligible in the SEC or the Big Ten. And of course, there's still some portal implications that will come of this as well, which I'm sure, I mean, if there's ever one certainty that we've learned of over the last, 12 months, 18 months, Jeff, one decision will only open up another lawsuit. So as of right now, this is where we stand. We'll see, what the next lawsuit will be. But you see it here. Producer Matthew brought up the basically the rulings for the SEC and what's to come for guys that played in preseason, visited minicamp, declared for the draft, etc. Right now, nothing changes for Cole Hudson in Texas.
So, Jerry, KD35 I'm the best says Cole Hudson did it right, unlike cheaters, a.k.a. Lane Kiffin. Jerry, we're at the point, I'll be honest, I don't know what's right, wrong, or indifferent at this point. Like I said, I'm with CJ. The SEC and the Big Ten are kind of in lockstep on this until the next judge signs off on a TRO or an injunction. But, Jerry, I know especially with basketball, Jerry, you're pretty fired up about this topic.
Yeah, I mean, look, and it's already getting tricky because Kentucky's already telling national media guys that Mark Mitchell Jr. didn't sign the normal Exhibit 10. So this is the kicker for the NBA, and it's meaningful for college basketball. So R.J. Lewis will be gone from LSU. I mean, no way, no how. I mean, no. I mean, the guy he's been in the NBA for 2 years.
I'm assuming Bryson Warren from A&M, Jerry.
Bryson Warren had already been, A&M had already he was already declared ineligible. That's why A&M signed through the bag at Jordan Pope, is because they were in desperate times. Not that Pope won't be good for them, but Bryson Warren is a really good player. That would have, Pope will be good, but he ain't Bryson Warren. But like Mark Mitchell, now at Kentucky from Missouri, really good player. Kentucky said, well, he didn't sign the normal Exhibit 10. Okay. He was on the Denver Nuggets NBA Summer League roster. He's listed as signing an Exhibit 10. So we're going to see if a Kentucky says, well, no, SEC, he didn't do that. How's the SEC going to react? They're going to say, it doesn't matter, man. Read what we put out here. It's pretty clear. I mean, so he didn't have to enter the draft because he was a senior, but he signed a contract in the NBA. He was on the Denver Nuggets roster for NBA Summer League. So that'll be interesting. Keyshawn Hall, the other one from Auburn, who's about to commit to St. John's, with St. John's lost Donnie Freeman, which I had them as a top 5 type of team. But Donnie Freeman tore his Achilles this summer. They now have Keyshawn Hall they're about to sign. He did the same thing. So is there going to be some little loophole with the exact contract you did or didn't sign? I don't know. That'll be the next battle, and Kentucky's already starting that one clearly. But I love where this is headed. And look, they put WNBA in there too. So NFL, NBA, WNBA, and I think it's any, obviously, pro sport. But I think this is a great day for college athletics, as college athletics stands, if you think it's really college athletics anymore. That's going to be the ultimate fight that's going to come. I mean, we're all right and wrong, but I called this with the NFL because you knew it was coming. Everything's copycat. There was somebody, some agent, somebody somewhere that was like, wait. I don't care what the NFL says. Why can't my guy go to the NFL and come back to college like the overseas guys that are pros are doing in basketball and guys in pro basketball are coming back to college? Why is it any different? They were going to try it. Doesn't matter what the rule book said. They were just going to try to get injunctions and try it. So I'm glad it's come to a head now. I do think this is the last summer of chaos like this. I think we're finally getting somewhere in terms of the eligibility part of this, guys. I don't know if CJ, if you agree. I think we're finally getting somewhere, getting to close to an end point here with that fight.
I think I'm more hopeful, right? I think 5 for 5 should, in some capacity, end all of this, right? The minute that is in play, right? No one's grandfathered in. You don't have to go to court to find eligibility for 5 for 5. You just have the blanket. You have 5 years. Good luck to you. And if it works out, phenomenal. If it doesn't, hey, at least you had 5 years to get yourself a degree or two to then go start your life afterward. I think that's the way it's supposed to be. The statement that SEC put out yesterday was, hey, we're trying to keep college football and college athletics for college athletes. I think that's music to my ears, essentially, is, just make sure what we've always known collegiate athletics to be remains what it is, and that's for kids that are 18 to 22, 23, right on the edge, for them to play athletic sports. I don't need to hear all about the professionals coming back for a second, third, fourth opportunity when they've had their chance. It just wasn't right for the sport. It felt like morality was slipping when there wasn't a need to do so.
So I want to add to this real quick before we move on. All that news, last night by the Big Ten, today by the SEC, kind of took all the headlines. Otherwise, Kim Mulkey would have the headline today.
Oh, geez.
Go search that one.
Yeah, I don't want to touch that with a 10-foot pole right now in this live stream, but Jerry clued me into that before we got going, and wow, is all I can say there. Real quick, Antoine said we need to get strict like when Maurice Claret tried to declare early and got shut down. Same thing with USC wide receiver Mike Williams. There's a difference, though. That was the NFL telling those guys that there is no room for you here. So the NCAA, it's way more, it's a toothless, feckless organization at this point. Like, they have no power. CJ, I want to throw this at you because I heard I was kind of thinking something like this, and I heard this thrown out. I'll credit Bud Elliott with mentioning this because he's the Cover 3 podcast over CBS, because I heard him say this, and I want to get your thoughts on it. Did the NCAA intentionally, when they decided to do 5 for 5 eligibility, and they're trying to grandfather people in, did they intentionally leave it vague, thinking it's going to be so chaotic, Congress will have no choice but to intervene? And now that there is no congressional intervening, we're just left with this big steaming pile of what to deal with.
It would be great foresight if so. A little self-sabotage to finally get some clarity into what the future of the sport, or really just future of all college athletics, will look like. I think there's some validity to that, Jeff.
Yeah.
And if that were to have gone exactly to plan, I've been short selling the NCAA this entire time.
Yeah, Jerry, the only catch with that I see is I don't think the NCAA, I just can't give them the benefit of the doubt that they had that much foresight to plan ahead and think that was going to happen. They're too disorganized to do something that calculated. Yeah,
look, I mean, I don't want to. I'm not trying to take a shot. I'm not the people that work inside the NCAA, maybe not. Could their attorneys?
Eh,
That
maybe.
would probably be the direction I would go if something like that happened.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, look, the NCAA's always had a major issue in anything, and it's never talked about. They didn't have subpoena power.
Yeah.
What can you really do without subpoena power? Like everybody is always, I'm talking about the old, looking into colleges and whatnot, the investigation. They didn't have subpoena power. Like everybody's like, oh, the NCAA ain't going to do anything. The NCAA couldn't really do anything.
No.
They had to have overwhelming evidence. They never had subpoena power, but I think all this has happened, and it's been a really rocky boat. But I do think as far as eligibility and if we're actually going to have college athletics, if we're going to be able to call it college athletics, because I think we're already on the line. Quite frank, I'm not even sure if it really is anymore. But as long as they want to continue to call it college athletics, the 5-year rule was needed for a while. College coaches have been calling for that behind the scenes for a while. That one was needed. And then they have to get past this, of the influx of worldwide talent that's already signed pro contracts that's coming to college. So that's going to be the final piece to this.
Yeah.
Is all the pros worldwide in basketball who have been having contracts no different than an Exhibit 10 or an NBA contract. After that happens, wherever that goes, I think we'll be coming to a conclusion of the eligibility and who's actually going to be able to play college athletics for 5 years.
Yeah.
We're getting close.
Keep college athletics on campuses and out of the courtroom. That's all I'd like to see.
100%, CJ. Yeah, definitely not amateurism anymore. Shoot, I remember the first time I heard 5 for 5, and it made sense. Texas was getting ready to play an Alamo Bowl in 2012. You had David Ash, who was banged up at quarterback. Case McCoy got sent home during that trip, which, by the way, at the Alamo Bowl, it's not if it's going to happen, it's when and who. Like, somebody's getting sent home for violating curfew or something. Like, it happens every year at the Alamo Bowl. But I digress. And Mac Brown sitting there where Connor Brewer or Jalen Overstreet is going to be your backup quarterback. A couple of names from the past, and neither one of those guys have taken a snap. He's like, why should they have to burn their red shirts for something that they didn't really do? So just give a blanket 5 for 5. So credit Mac Brown. Mac Brown's the first coach I heard really stump for it. It was needed for a long time, and it's here. So we can keep talking about that if you guys want to, but we do have a super chat to get to. We got some other stuff to get to, so we will move along here in just a second. Real quick, though, got to let everybody know that this edition of On Texas Football is brought to you by Prize Picks. Y'all know we're always looking for ways to make watching games a little more fun. That's exactly why we love Prize Picks. It is America's #1 sports picks app, and honestly, it's about as simple as it gets because all you've got to do is choose more or less on player stats, lock in your lineup, and you're good to go. If you like picking teams instead of players, Prize Picks has you covered there too, because now you can pick the winner, the spread, or the total on games or even fights. Prize Picks is available in most states, including Texas, California, and Florida. So chances are, wherever you are, you can jump in today and get on Prize Picks. And one of our favorite features about Prize Picks is you can follow users too. You can tell the picks they're making with one click, or you can follow your friends' picks if you want to. But here's the best part about Prize Picks. If you've never tried Prize Picks before, just play your first $5 lineup. And if you win, you'll get $150 in bonus lineups. Just make sure when you download the Prize Picks app to use the code HMA when you sign up. They just updated this offer, so there's never been a better time to get started. Download the Prize Picks app, use the code HMA, play that first $5 lineup, and if you win, you'll get $150 in bonus lineups. Just remember the code HMA when you download the Prize Picks app and sign up. And as always, please remember, play smart, play responsibly, play Prize Picks. All right, let's go ahead and get to a super chat. Jerry AC Holloman has a super chat. Thank you for the super chat. Said, Jerry, tell us what Texas' regular season record will be. Jerry, we put you on the spot already in the first half of the show tonight.
My goal the whole time, the whole offseason has been to make the playoffs. That's my only goal. So I will probably start at 10-2, and if you beat Ohio State, we'll adjust.
CJ, and I'm with Jerry from this standpoint. It's the same line of thinking I had the year that Texas, the last year in the Big 12, going into 2023, when people would ask me, hey, what should be, what's the win total going to be, over, under, this, that, blah, blah, blah. Whatever it takes to get to Arlington to be playing for the conference championship. If it means you got to go 11-1, if it's 9-3, whatever it takes for you to get there, that's all that matters to me. In the words of the great Mike Reiner, CJ, you just got to get yourself in the tournament and give yourself a chance. So that's all I'm concerned with at this point.
Yeah, look, you can't get a promotion unless you get your foot in the door for an interview, right? And that's where Texas obviously missed out on a year ago. They were playing solid football towards the back end of the year. Who knows what kind of noise they could have made. But this year, you can't leave yourself to chance, right? You got to find a way in. I was sitting around 11-1 a couple of months ago. I think I'm sitting at 10-2 now. Look, I think depth at linebacker, little suspect. Depth at safety, still a bit of an unknown. I'd like to see consistency on the offensive line. I'd like to see consistency from the quarterback on the field before coming out there and saying Texas is going to go 5 out of 6 against Ohio State, LSU, Texas A&M, Oklahoma, Tennessee. I mean, that's a tough schedule. So 10-2, find a way in, and we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, look, I want to say this. My 10-2 is respect for the schedule. It's respect for the schedule.
That's fair.
If Texas was in the Big 12, I'd say 12-0. If Texas was in the Big 10 and played Indiana's schedule, I'd probably say 11-1. This is a respect for the schedule. That's where I come out. Look, Texas is as talented as anybody in the country. Everybody's talking about they'll have the most draft picks headed into the season. But I still think the margins – I think CJ would agree. The margins are thin on that. It's like, hey, Texas is the most talented roster in America, some people say. But the margins are thin. We're not talking about 2001 Miami here. We're not talking about something like that or one of Nick's Alabama teams. The margins are thin on all that stuff. You're talking about predicting 13 draft picks to 12 to 11 by a couple of other teams. We're talking thin margins. But my 10-2 is respect for the schedule. And that's where I come out is and CJ, I don't know if y'all have talked about this, but one of the big things for me this season, only one off week and 9 SEC games. First time all these teams in the SEC are going through that, losing an off week, playing an extra SEC game.
Well, it's not just that, but it's 8 consecutive SEC games to wrap up the schedule, with 3 of your final 4 being on the road, and that one at home is quote unquote a rivalry game. So look, that's a lot of stress on your body. That's a lot of stress mentally, to feel the pressure if you do fall early, right? Whether it's against Ohio State, whether it's, in Neyland against Oklahoma and Dallas. Like, to go 8 consecutive weekends is against anybody is difficult. To do so in the SEC, very difficult. F or fake, I did see your comment. Texas would be 8-4 at best.
Yeah,
if that was the case.
Jerry, because for me, it all hinges on the Ohio State game, right?
Yeah.
Like, Texas wins that game, to me, 11-1 suddenly is a real possibility.
Absolutely.
If they lose that game, I mean, I could see this team losing 3 SEC games, because I think mentally where you go from that, I just don't know where the team would go. Jerry, I cannot remember. I mean, maybe in hindsight we can say maybe 2005, the game in Columbus against Ohio State. I cannot remember the last time Texas, Jerry, had a non-conference game that felt as must-win as this one does.
I've been there all summer. And I think it's for both teams, honestly. Because if you take a loss in week 2, sometimes you perform really great with your back against the wall, but that's a long time to perform with your back against the wall, knowing you have one hiccup left. I mean, Ohio State's schedule is just about as tough as Texas after that game. I mean, just go look at Ohio State's schedule. So I think for both those teams, they won't come out and say it, but I bet in those coaching rooms they feel like, we got to get this one. Yeah. We got to get this one. And then the momentum, like, I think Texas is in that spot where if they beat Ohio State, to your point, Jeff, I could see them just taking off on a rocket ship. But I think that's a huge game for Sark personally. I think it's a huge game for the program. It's a home game, obviously, coming off of the loss last year where it wasn't a pretty game by Texas. I just think I could see Texas just the confidence going through the roof for this team. And then you just got to pray for health at that point. But I think that Ohio State game is really big in this equation. Not that Texas can't make the playoffs, but it does so much for your confidence and your belief.
100%. Yeah.
That's it. That's all it is. And that's exactly why it's a must-win for me too. I mean, what was the last game Texas won that they probably shouldn't have? It was probably 2023, Alabama on the road. Yeah. Right? They've been in situations where they were the underdog or it was a 50-50 coin flip and against teams with comparable talent, and they've fallen short. Right, all the Ohio States, all the Georgia games where you're a play or a series away from coming away victorious, and for whatever reason, they've not been able to get over the hump. You're at home, You have a fourth-year veteran quarterback. You have assembled all the talent in the world at every position that you could have hoped for out of the portal. If not now, then when? That's my biggest question. And Jerry, look, it has to happen at some point for Texas.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't happen in week 2, why would anybody in that locker room believe that, hey, we can still get there after years of losing to Ohio State, years of losing to Georgia, years of waiting for that one big win after Alabama? And I don't count Texas A&M and Oklahoma in this conversation. I'd expect Texas to beat both of those schools, given the timelines of the new coaches, given what we've seen, talent and accumulation. It's got to happen, I think, week 2. I do think they get it done, but barely. It has to go well.
Yeah. Hey, by the way, guys, I don't know if Jeff, you're going to this, but somebody asked, did y'all hear anything in the press conference today from anybody that really stood out to you?
Yeah, just real quick on that, Jerry, because I want to get to that for sure. But I do want to say, talking about the last time Texas had a non-conference game, and then if Marcus, I don't know if Marcus Myers, I don't know if Marcus is still in the chat, but maybe Marcus could chime in on this. I think the year before 05, the 04, that they went to Arkansas, they went to Fayetteville early in that season. That may have been the last one, because if you think about the circumstances coming off of that 2003 season where they missed out on a BCS game, they lost that pretty forgettable Holiday Bowl to Washington State. Bull Reese was out. They brought in Greg Robinson. It's like, all right, like if you had the big loss to OU the year before, like, all right, if you're going to do it, like you probably need to do it now. You had Derek Johnson coming back. He put off the NFL for a year. So did Cedric Benson. So that might have been the last time that happened. I think the big thing I heard today, and Jerry, get your thoughts on this. I think it again, speaking of coordinator changes, I think it just kind of frames where this Texas defense is. Because Bo Masco and Justin Cryer both mentioned, hey, we all kind of started from square one learning this defense. So whether you were a portal guy, whether you're a true freshman, whether you're a guy that played 500 snaps last year, like you're all learning at the same speed. You're all learning the same stuff. So again, with so much roster turnover, Jerry, that's just another data point of, man, if Sark was going to make this coordinator change, this might have been the best time to do it.
Yeah, for sure. And I feel like all these teams nowadays are going to resemble more like basketball teams in a way. It's going to be like you have so many guys, new guys on a team, that you got to build that chemistry, and it's going to take a little longer if you have a bunch of returning players. So, but yeah, no, I think it's a great point is, look, and it's also the way he coaches. Like if you hadn't played for somebody with the – I mean, Derek Johnson talked on Coffee and Football, talked about Will, and he didn't even play for him, just how much he loves him and the energy, the 4th and inches all day, every day. If you haven't played for somebody like that before, you could have played for a good coach that maybe wasn't kind of wired like Muschamp is, then that's an adjustment too. I think being an older guy definitely helps there. I thought the most important thing I heard today is, I think, CJ, we talked about this. I'm not sure, Jeff, if we talked about it, but I lose track of the shows. But what did those guys talk about? We have 1 year to get this done. None of those guys came from real winning programs. And I'm talking like Pitt was good, quality team. Hollywood Smothers on a quality run program by Dave Doran. Justin Cryer, obviously FSU had a good year, then hasn't been great. Bo Masco was at Rutgers. Golly, got the hell beat out of him every week, right? And Ian Jafar, I don't know if you could beat the hell out of him, but you could try at Arkansas. It must have felt like that for him. You look at all these guys, Masunis at Michigan State. These guys come to Texas all in search of being on the first really, really good team of their college career. And for most of them, it's their last year.
Yeah.
I think that's an interesting point with these guys.
I think there's a hunger, Jerry. We heard that from Raheem Biles, talking about, hey, I like playing in big games. For my entire college career, I've been sitting on my couch at home with my parents in December and January watching teams compete for championships and college football playoff. And, I feel like I have that level of talent to be able to, participate, compete, contribute at that level. So I think that's something that certainly weighs on these guys, and especially seeing who else are. I mean, you didn't mention Cam Coleman and Auburn, but very much the same. I mean, but and here's the thing too. I think they're walking into a solid nucleus of leaders that saw the struggles, but saw the, basically the potential of what last year could have been. Arch, Gooseby, Jelani, Hero Kanu, obviously, I think is one of the more underrated leaders on this team. Connor Robertson, also on the inside. Melvin Siani, Wake Forest. I mean, that's another one that probably didn't see a ton of success.
All those guys.
So I'm with you. It's a strong mesh of leaders who have seen glimpses of a playoff, and guys that are dead hungry because they've never experienced anything like it.
Yeah, and Jeff, and not to go into a different conversation, but I've kind of compared it to Chris Beard's Elite Eight team, because Timmy Allen was on a Utah team that wasn't good. Yeah. Marcus Carr was on a Minnesota team that wasn't good. Serge Abari Rice was at New Mexico State, decent mid-major team, but didn't really do anything big. And you can go look at that team, and it was Dylan Dessou, Vanderbilt. It was very, very similar. If you can get all those guys to come in and buy into – Sean Miller talked about this with John Rothstein with all his new guys earlier today. That video was published on CBS. If you can get all those guys to actually buy in to the common goal and how much that can help each of them individually, if you go win, it's amazing what can happen with those teams.
Yeah, that team, the guys that came back, none of those guys had won an NCAA tournament game other than the one they won at Texas when they beat Virginia Tech in the first round and then got knocked out by Jaden Ivey and Zach Edey in Purdue. And then you bring in Rice, who they did have, I think that was actually Dan Hurley's last NCAA tournament loss before they won the back-to-back titles, was to New Mexico State. And then Tyrese Hunter had gone on that Sweet 16 run with Iowa State. So those are the only two guys that had NCAA tournament success outside of Texas. So, I like the way that team meshed. I like the way this team meshed. I think, too, in that vein, Jerry, like to hear Arch say, somebody asked him, hey, do you feel like you're closer to guys on this team than you were last year? And for Arch to say, yeah, that's fair to say. I think that's a tribute to the types of guys that got in the portal. Like CJ talked about the sense of urgency. I think it's also a credit to Sark. Like, there was a lot of stuff that went wrong last year, but instead of just saying, oh, well, it went wrong. Like, no, let's just do everything kind of the opposite of what we did last year. Like, hey, instead of starting Culture Wednesdays in June, let's go start them in January. Like, just kind of going back to basics. And you talk about, the coordinator change, everything. I think that, to me, guys, is the theme for the offseason now, Jerry. Like, from the time that he announced PK wasn't coming back and Muschamp was hired up until the day before they kick off against Texas State, the theme for me is just getting back to basics. Like, hey, what got you to the point where you were a play away in 2 straight semifinals from maybe competing for a national championship? Like, what got you to that point? A lot of stuff you didn't do going into 2025 is what got you there.
I think a lot of credit goes to the strength and conditioning staff as well. Look, their job this summer, I had a conversation with someone close to the workouts this offseason. They said, look, our whole job or our whole objective was to get the team to hate us, for them to come together to hate a common enemy, which was basically the strength staff, right? The goal was for those guys to find that bond when life was difficult, when it was 110 degrees outside on the turf at DKR at Denny's, and say, God, we got to find a way to get through this because it's hell right now. Doing whatever the workout that staff put together for them. It kind of reminded me of Pledship, right? Because you come together really close with all the guys that you're in the dirt with, point being. But I think that helped, right? I think that helped find these guys a common bond with one another to get through. And if you've watched the Tough All Day on Longhorn Network, you see that, right? You see these guys running and Torrey Beckton and his staff basically yelling, like, if you care about this means something to you. Y'all better, come together and push through. I think that was a large part of it. Jeff, also fall camp, having all these guys back on the dorms, I think that goes a long way into unity and basically building that brotherhood as well.
I do think that is a really big part of it. All right, we'll pick it up on the other side. We'll pick it up here in just a second. We got to thank a few more sponsors here on the Tuesday night live stream. Shout out to one of our newest sponsors here at All Texas Football. Shout out to Shields. Get ready, Austin. Get ready, Longhorn fans. The all-new Shields is opening on August 29th in Cedar Park, and it's like nothing you've ever seen. Thousands and thousands of square feet packed with the best in sporting goods, hunting, fishing, camping, hiking, and all things sports. Try top brands, test out the latest gear, get expert help from people who love sports just as much as you do. Mark your calendar August 29th, Cedar Park, it's the Shields grand opening. Your next adventure starts here. And don't forget, they've got an exclusive Longhorn section for you to check out while you're checking out everything at Shields and that grand opening at Cedar Park coming up this Saturday. Shout out to Shields for sponsoring the Tuesday night live stream here at All Texas Football, and shout out to our friends at Hayes City Store for sponsoring the live stream as well. There are very few restaurants, and once you go to them, you know right away it's a special place, and Hayes City Store is one of those places. Scratch-made Texas comfort food is what they're all about. Got to try the famous truck stop enchiladas, the award-winning chicken fried steak, the homemade desserts. It's all good, and it's all made from scratch. They've got live music 6 nights a week, 50 beer taps, ice cold long necks, tasty margaritas, 13 TVs in their ice house. Makes it the perfect setup for game days. Got to try their brunch menu every Sunday from 10 to 3. Hayes City Store is dog friendly. They've got a tree net for the kids. So gather up your whole crew. Head on out to Hayes City Store. For more information, check out the website at hayescitystortx.com. Hayes City Store, it's uniquely Texas.
Can you imagine if they built a Buc-ee's next to a Shields?
You know, got the new Buc-ee's in San Marcos, Jerry. So I've got Buc-ee's and Shields within driving distance.
How many hours could you spend at the Buc-ee's and Shields together?
Well, just in the parking lot alone, probably.
Just in the parking lot.
I don't think the universe could handle that, Jerry. I'll tell you what. For I'll speak for Blake Monroe. I don't think the Monroe family budget could handle that.
No.
A Buc-ee's and a Shields.
The only thing they didn't get was the Ferris wheel, apparently.
Yeah, Blake will be muted while he's talking about it too, for sure. So, all right, let's go ahead and get to some more here. We got a couple super chats to get to. Michael Williams, thank you for the super chat. Said, can y'all do a 10 to 15 minute video each week reviewing how Texas commits did the previous week? I don't know, Michael. That's a producer Matt call. You gotta ask Matthew about that one. That is completely out of my control.
And I mean, sometimes it is difficult to get stats week to week. I will say that people think, oh, it's easy, but it actually can be difficult. I've been waiting 3 days on some stats from last Friday.
CJ, you want to try to convince Matthew to move around the schedule in season?
I don't want Matthew yelling at me more than he already is for all of my mistakes and outtakes, Jeff. So whatever keeps him the happiest, I think, is what he deserves right now.
Well, hey, Michael, Matthew's giving you the firm maybe. So there you go. Now, like Jerry said, the hardest part is tracking down stats. So we'll do the best we can to keep you guys updated. Especially Jerry, Landon Williams Callis, like we will be tracked because he's all the state record he's chasing. Like we will be tracking that each and every week. So no.
And local Houston people they'll be having stories about that, Chronicle, whatever. They'll kind of be they'll be doing some extra special recaps on his games. I mean, even his scrimmage against Crawford the other day got, I don't know how many thousands of views on Instagram from how many people. Vipe was out there, of course. Vipe will be tracking him. Vipe does an amazing job in Houston. Matt Malatesta and that group. So Landon Williams Callis will be easy. Some of the other guys, some of those guys they even stats on max preps every week. Some coaches do, some don't. So then trying to get those stats and get the call back with the stats, it's a process.
You know, Jerry, you mentioned Matt Malatesta. Matt's been doing that in Houston for 20, 25 years now. He wrote a book on when David Amon's North Shore team won a state title in 2003. He wrote a book that was basically like the Friday Night Lights version of North Shore football. I forget the name of it, but it's been something I've wanted to read. Every time I think about it, I forget it. So somebody remind me that I want to read that book at some point before I leave this mortal world. Thank you, Michael, for the super chat, though. We'll, like I said, we'll do our best to keep track of it. AC Holloman, thank you for the super chat. I think this is your second super chat, so thank you very much. So we need a trifecta of national championship, SEC championship, and Heisman. Guys, I'll be 1,000% honest. If Texas gets the first one of those right there, I don't really care about the other two.
Yeah.
I mean, you'd probably be right. Me. I'd bet 90%, 95, 90. It should be 99, Jeff. It's the only one that matters. I'll say this, and again, having heard from Sark, having heard from a few players, I think they'd agree with you too, right? That goal is the national championship. Someone asked Arch Manning today, hey, do you want to win the Manning Award? Arch goes, no. Like, hell no. I don't care about that. But that's just kind of where things are at, right? The sights are set on a national championship. If Texas were to accomplish all three, though, we'd be in for a hell of a run, hell of a ride.
Jerry, I don't know if this is good, bad, or indifferent, but the first 2 years of the 12-team playoff, the loser of the SEC championship game has had a deeper CFP run than the winner of the SEC championship game. I don't know what that says about anything. I just think it's interesting to point it out.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, Texas took Carson back out 2 years ago. So Georgia was in a pretty tough spot. But, yeah, look, I mean, I think we talked about, the Texas-Ohio State game. It's not the same magnitude, but you see what Trinidad Chambliss did for Ole Miss. You see what confidence a team getting really confident can do because, I mean, they're very talented. Don't get me wrong. And Lane Kiffin's a tremendous play caller. By the way, if y'all haven't read the ESPN story about them checking for bugs in the Manning Center after Kiffin went to LSU, it's
crazy,
hilarious. They check to see if if Kiffin bugged the Manning Center before he left for LSU. It's amazing. But the confidence that Trinidad Chambliss, even through the loss to Georgia, and I know they didn't play the toughest schedule, but the confidence that team built, that shows you what can happen. It really shows you what can happen. Like Indiana was a playoff team the year before, added Mendoza. Obviously, he won the Heisman. It's a little different, but Ole Miss, best season they've had since whenever or close to ever. Look at the confidence that team built throughout the year, even with the loss to Georgia. What Trinidad Chambliss, that confidence he built and instilled in that team. That's why I say let's point to this Ohio State game. If Texas beats Ohio State, watch the confidence of this Texas team take off.
CJ, this to me is the ultimate version of that, like just looking at the big picture. Archer 4529 says, as a Buckeye fan, that's how 2024 played out.
Yeah.
Absolutely felt that way. Yeah, they lost to Michigan. It doesn't matter because you got the big prize at the end. So who really cares about that loss to Michigan? I'm sure there's a very, very, very small minority of Ohio State fans that if you honestly ask them, hey, would you trade in this national championship to not have the loss to Michigan? Probably a very, very small minority would say yes. But overwhelmingly, like the vast majority of people, nobody remembers or cares that they lost to Michigan. They won the national title.
I think Bobby might fall into that for the Texas community. If it was A&M or Oklahoma, I think you might get an argument from Bobby on that.
I think it was incredibly important for Ohio State fans to win that title the year after Michigan.
Yeah, probably. No doubt.
Because especially with all the scandal that came out with the best scouting department of all time in college football, that's Ohio State at least putting it on Michigan the year after they won. Even though they lost the game, at the end of the day, they raised the trophy.
Yeah, no doubt. It would kind of be like, hey, if you go back to 2008, ask those Texas players on the team, hey, would you trade the win over Oklahoma for a trip to the Big 12 championship game and a spot in the title game to play Florida? I would think a lot of those guys would do it, Jerry. Like, no question. Like,
no question.
You'd trade one for the other. So just a little food for thought, just something to think about. So, yeah, AC Halloran, thank you for the super chat. Got a few more supers to get to. Sailor Joe with the super chat. Thank you very much. Said, are we doing this team a disservice by forcing 12 personnel, or will air raid / pony packages with our new weapons? This is really Sark. Is this really a Sark made in heaven offense? Jerry, I don't know if they're going to force 12 personnel. CJ, I don't know if they're going to force. So we've talked a little bit about this. Like, they've done, from what we've heard, they've done some two-back stuff in the scrimmages. And again, like what they're going to do to a scrimmage and what Sark's call sheet's going to look like against Texas State, one might not have anything to do with the other. But I feel like he's going to try to maximize the weapons he's got. Like, they're not going to do away with 12 personnel. You may just not see it near as much this year as you have the last few years.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I asked Sark on Monday, how do you balance a new group of personnel guys, wide receivers, running backs, tight ends, and what they do very well versus what you've always done, what are kind of the pillars of your offense, historically. And said, look, we'll always have kind of what I believe the identity of my offense will be. But look, if we have Ryan Wingo, Emmett Mosley, and Cam Coleman all balling out, all very difficult to cover, why would I take them off the field consistently unless it's a situational aspect. So that's something that last year drove me crazy, right? 12 personnel. I think there was a Livingston 83-yard touchdown in 12 personnel that kind of skewed the numbers a little bit. But I've done numbers throughout the offseason. Your yards per pass, yards per play in 11 personnel were significantly higher than what the numbers were in 12. It wasn't pretty. And my dumb football brain says, why not just go one running back, 4 wide receivers on the field and let Arch air this thing out if your pass protection is going to be what we expect it to be this year with a healthy Trevor Gooseby. But that's the decision of a play caller and a head coach to make sure that you don't stray too far from who you've always been while adding in the wrinkles of Cam Coleman, Jermaine Bishop, etc.
Yeah. The pony package that we're talking about, for those that don't know, we're talking about 2-back stuff. So you get 2 backs in the backfield. Jerry, when you talk about the pony package specifically, like just watching some of the games that Hollywood Smothers played at NC State, I feel like that staff, and granted, I'm not saying they didn't maximize him because he had a heck of a year, but I felt like there was just some meat left on the bone in the passing game with him. So we know Sark loves getting the backs involved in the pass game. He's got 2 guys that you should be able to exploit that with Raleigh Brown and Hollywood Smothers. I feel like they're going to get back to that because, to CJ's point, I know Rod has tracked the numbers. I think this is throughout Sark's tenure. The pony package, I think, is in terms of yards per play, explosive plays, like on a per snap basis, that's probably their most explosive stuff comes out of the pony package.
Yeah, and look, I think what's going to be interesting this year, and I think we'll see – I mean, look, I think the best offense under Sark is the one where he can use everything, because the harder you are to prepare for is the whole key. Can you play against any style of defense, any style of game? Can you adapt? I think that's when you have your best offense, unless you are literally a ground and pound type of team. But I'll say this. I think the 2-back, the pony package stuff is very interesting because I think the running backs have lined up in the slot a little bit. So you may start in the 21 and motion somebody into the slot this year. Yeah. I mean, so it may not have the look of a traditional pony package where 2 backs are lined up split for, on each side of the quarterback, but you could kind of, and you don't break huddle, let's say break huddle with a pony package look and motion somebody to the slot. I think you could see, because Raleigh Brown is dangerous out of the slot.
Yep. It was interesting. That was something that Sark mentioned. He's like, also as we progress in fall camp, he goes, sometimes I got to go back to what we've used previously to get an idea of what might work again with this group. Jerry, you mentioning that, I know we didn't see it as often as maybe some of us would have liked. 2022 offense, when you had Roschon in the backfield, Bijan often in the slot there, or Keelan Robinson as kind of your motion guy in orbit motion or jet or whatever it was. They showed a little bit of that. It was just years ago. Sometimes you forget about it. You got to dust off the playbook and get it back out there.
Well, yeah, they went. I remember the Texas Tech game in Lubbock in 22 on that opening drive, part of Sark's script. They went diamond formation and kind of snuck Keelan out on a little like wheel route and scored. Maybe we get back to some of that. I mean, you can show those packages. It doesn't have to be like a package that you're predominantly in. So the options they feel endless. I mean, they're not, but they do feel endless with the personnel Sark has on this team. All right, we got a lot of supers on the board. We'll get to them here in just a second, but got to thank a few more sponsors here on the live stream. Shout out to Von Lane, one of our long-running sponsors here at On Texas Football. Texas OU week just got a lot easier. Von Lane is bringing back its Dallas to Oklahoma City route starting September 8th with multiple departures every single day. Riders have been asking for this one, and it's back. You can book it today. Think about what it takes to fly that route. You're paying for your ticket, then you're paying for a seat assignment, a check bag. You're standing in that TSA line, just hoping you make it to your gate. Von Lane is the opposite of all of that. Flat rate, $129 one way, no extra fees for anything. You board at a beautiful hotel terminal in minutes, settle into one of 22 oversized leather seats, and ride with Starlink Wi-Fi, complimentary snacks, drinks, and hot towel service the whole way. And if you're driving, that is 3+ hours of your day that's just gone. Von Lane, that's 3 hours of getting work done, watching film, or just relaxing before you get there. Von Lane connects Austin, Dallas, Houston, San Antonio, Fort Worth, Plano, the Woodlands, Oklahoma City, Nashville, Memphis, and Atlanta. Look at vonlane.com and enter the code OTF26. That's OTF26 at checkout for $20 off your first ride. Von Lane It is a private jet on wheels. Thank you to Von Lane, and thank you to Ethos. Life insurance is one of those things nobody really enjoys talking about, but once you've got a family, it becomes a whole different conversation. It's less about thinking about the worst case scenario and more about making sure your family has some financial security if something ever happens to you. That's where Ethos comes in. Ethos makes getting life insurance fast and easy, and it's 100% online. You can get a quote in just seconds, apply in as little as 10 minutes, and there's no medical exam. You just answer a few health questions online. That's it. You can get up to $3 million in coverage, and some policies are as low as $30 a month. Take 10 minutes and get covered today with life insurance through Ethos. Get your free quote at ethos.com/ontexas. That's ethos, ethos.com/ontexas. Application times may vary. Rates may vary. Again, that's ethos.com/ontexas to get your free quote today. All right, thank you to Von Lane and Ethos. Let's get back to these super chats. Got a lot of them on the board, guys. So let's get to them. Mark Reddy, thank you for the super chats. At Hook 'em Boys, getting ready to head out on deployment, so it will be hard to watch, but I'll definitely try and catch all the games and tune into y'all. But I'm going to try my best. Mark, thank you for your service.
Yes,
very much.
Absolutely.
I don't know, Jerry, I don't know what technology is, but I know there was a group of Longhorn fans that would like record games and send DVDs to troops overseas of games. I don't even know if DVD players are a thing for people anymore, but Mark, be safe. And again, thank you for your service. It is much appreciated. Thank you for your support of OTF and for hanging out with us on this live stream. Justin Yarbrough, thank you for the super chat, Justin. Always appreciate your thoughts. So what was y'all's thoughts on the nugget? Juice Cryer dropped about Michael Terry being physical. Sounds like he's taking Jerry's advice and wish I could make the show tomorrow, but duty calls. Justin, thank you for the super chat. By the way, since Justin brought it up, our get-togethers tomorrow in Houston and then Thursday in San Antonio. Social Beer Garden in Houston tomorrow, and then Atlee's Rally is where we're at in San Antonio on Thursday. CJ, start with you. What any thoughts on Justin Cryer bringing up Michael Terry today, talking about how physical he is as a running back?
Yeah, I think you like hearing that because, again, that was one of the bigger critiques that was present in Michael Terry's game. Obviously, you see the photos, you see the videos of him running, and you're like, hey, man, this guy looks pretty darn good. What's preventing him from seeing the field? And, well, first, it's a long line of really talented runners at the top of the list. But two is when you get the ball in your hands, do you run physically to match the size that you present to opposing defenses? That was kind of the thing. That was kind of the holdup that Texas, I think, was hoping to see this year. We heard about in scrimmage number 2, he had a 10-plus yard run. We've heard at times that he's been a second back on the field, whether not a H-back sort of say, but one of those lead blockers from the backfield at times. We know about his receiving prowess out there as well. So just finding different areas and ways to get him involved, I think, is encouraging. If not for this year, then for 2027, where you're likely to lose 2 running backs at the very top of this list.
Jerry, any quick thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think Michael Terry's been such an interesting prospect. And by the way, I thought Juice Cryer was awesome. The only thing I'll disagree on with him, and he was trying to talk trash. He can't beat his brother in hoops, so no chance. That would be a dusting. But look, I think he's been one of the more interesting prospects for me in the last few SARC classes because I think people just solely played running back in high school, so he can play running back in college. It's 2 totally different things. But I think the one thing that he did coming out of high school was people were always like, well, should he be a linebacker or a pass rusher? Should he be a running back? Should he play tight end? He wanted to play wide receiver. So he took – and I'm not saying he's not a physical player, but the mindset was not the most physical position on the field. So when you're going to say, I'm going to go from wide receiver, which in my mind is what I wanted to play, to running back in the SEC, your mental has to do a 180. I mean, you have to go from, okay, I want to be the guy that runs routes and scores touchdowns, plays wide out, to I got to take a handoff and go bash 240-pound linebackers in the hole in the SEC. That's 2 totally different mental mindsets. Mm-hmm. And I think that's been the biggest hurdle. That's why I've kept harping on that with him. That's a huge hurdle because that's not where he saw himself coming out of high school. And then if you're going to make that move, you have to flip the switch and say, now I've got to be the most physical player on the field anytime I touch a football. Because if I'm 6'2", 230, I'm not Raleek Brown. I'm not getting to the edge. I'm not making people miss in space. How am I going to have to win? You're going to have to win the same way Derek Cooper's going to have to win.
Mm-hmm.
And are you as good as Derek Cooper doing it?
Yeah, from lining up opposite of Grayson Littleton and Bo Masco to chipping on Justice Terry, potentially.
Yeah.
Good luck.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a different world for sure. Thank you for the super chat. Who is that? Justin, thank you for the super chat. Amars has a super chat. Thank you. Said, his OTF is worried about Arch as some talking heads in your industry. Look, I'll let Jerry and CJ, I'm not going to speak for them. I'll let them speak for themselves. I'm not worried about it. In terms of the talking heads, I think a lot of the opinions are being formed about Sark's comments post-scrimmage on Saturday. And I think it's some of the same people that are neglecting the fact or don't want to look at it or refuse to look at it or just going to ignore Arch in the second half of the year last year. It's pretty clear, and it was pretty clear when people started doing NFL draft work, because a lot of these comments like, oh my gosh, look how good Arch was. Like, yeah, some of y'all just watched the Ohio State game, and I'm not talking about anybody on this stream. I'm talking about some of the talking heads, the national folks. Everybody watched the Ohio State game and didn't watch Texas again the rest of the year. Didn't watch Arch again the rest of the year. So, like, we did. I'm not worried to the point where I'm panicking. Am I concerned, given that this offense started really slow last year and Saturday's scrimmage wasn't great? Yeah, it's concerning. But, Jerry, I take a little solace in the fact that after the Saturday scrimmage and taking some time to think about it on Sunday, Arch might have had his two best practices at camp the last 2 days.
Yeah, my spot on Arch has been, ask me after the first couple of games of the season, if we see the same passes missed we did last season, then I'll say how much progression are we going to see in year 2. But we're not going to know that in a scrimmage setting.
Right.
It's just totally different. You're not Sark isn't game planning for Will Muschamp. This is not the same thing. And Arch's legs don't come into play when you have a green jersey or when you have the yellow jersey on, right? It's just not going to. He knows he's not going to be hit. People are going to pull up. He's not going to make the plays with his legs the same way he would in the real game. The only time I will not even get concerned, but say, okay, how much progression is he going to make, is if I see the same routes missed early this season that were kind of his Achilles heel last season. Because I do think CJ and Jeff, one of the things I'm really watching with college football this year, we're in a unique situation. Is Ohio State, Julian Sands, second-year starter. Arch, second-year starter. CJ Carr, second-year starter. Dante Moore, second-year starter at Oregon. Gunnar Stockton, second-year starter. These guys, who makes the biggest jump of these guys in year 2 as a starter at their school? Are there a couple of guys that make bigger jumps than the others? Because I do think that will tell us a lot about how this college football season goes.
Did you mention Chambliss in that group too, Jerry? Second-year starter at Ole Miss.
Yep. It's an interesting season. There's a lot of second-year starters on highly ranked teams.
Yeah.
And even Mateer, second year at Oklahoma.
Any thoughts on that one way or the other, CJ?
You know, I've said it since scrimmage 1, scrimmage 2. It's like I'm not going to hit the panic button. I'd like to hear that it was a cleaner, crisper showing from the quarterback. Year 2 as a starter, Jerry, you mentioned that, but it's year 4 in this system, right? Yeah. And, you know, the one issue that I thought showed up a little bit too often a year ago was when guys were open, passes weren't where they needed to be, whether it was in stride, behind, in the dirt, sailing it, whatever it was. The gimmies, the freebies sometimes didn't show up as gimmies and freebies. And It sounded like after the first scrimmage specifically, it was like some of those throws should have been made for big plays. How much of that is just facing a good defense? I don't know. But at the end of the day, if you're in the conversation to be a Heisman front runner, 1.1 overall pick, I'm expecting you to make those passes regardless of who you're facing every day. So, again, not panic. I'll probably best reside sitting in line right there with you, Jerry. Ask me again after a week or two. But, you know, I'd like to have heard a little cleaner and crisper showing in these scrimmages.
Yeah, mine's more about Arch, like you said, CJ, making those advantage throws, those layups, as Sark calls them.
Yep.
And I think in general, he and this offense have to be much better, much cleaner situationally than they were last year. Like to go distance on third down has to drop from where it averaged last year. Staying ahead of the chain, staying on schedule, red zone, 2 minute in the half. Like they just got to be better. Executing situational football. Thank you for the super chat, Amars. Steamport, thank you for the super chat. It says, sorry, I meant to post this, which we got your super chat, but then producer Matt got your question. So we got you. It says, sorry, I meant to post this. If Sark doesn't get past the semifinals, do you think the Regents will require him to get an offensive coordinator next year? Here's my thing. If number one, no, I don't think so. But if you're the play calling head coach and somebody's demanding that you get a play caller, what are we really talking about at that point? Like I don't want Sark guys to give up play calling. I don't want to be forced to do it. I don't want him to give it up until he feels like it's out of his system. And you know what? It may never be out of his system because to me, and Jerry, maybe this is just like Tom Herman era scar tissue still left. Like hiring an offensive coordinator might sound great to a lot of people, but if Sark is the head coach and somebody else is the play caller, especially if it's a situation, and that's why I don't think it will ever happen, if he's forced into it, he's the head coach. He's got ultimate veto power. So at the end of the day, what does it matter?
Yeah, exactly. Look, I'll say this too. Sark kind of set himself up this year saying, I'm not going to have as much on my plate. Having to worry about the defense. I've got a head coach of the defense. I'm not even worrying about it. Will Muschamp, go do your thing. So Sark set himself up to say, look, I'm not having to do as much on the defensive side. I can totally dive in more so even than I have been in the game planning and the scripting and the play calling and everything that are has been his strengths his whole career. Even when he wasn't a head coach, his whole career, those have been his strengths. So yeah. I think he set himself up to where you got to have a really good year. That's what happens as you get him longer into these coaching tenures at a school, right? And the window opens, and then does the window shrink? Maybe sometimes for some, but Sark knows year 6 is a big year. He knows. Look, Sark is a sharp guy. He knows that. What year did Kirby Smart win a title? What year did Ryan Day? What year did some of these guys win titles? Go back and look. I mean, take Nick out of the equation, but when have a lot of these recent guys won titles? Year 6, year 7. He knows where he's at in this whole process at Texas, and he knows that kind of the history of all this. He's a college football junkie. He knows when those expectations really ratchet up the most for a head coach, because that's when you're compared to other guys.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, Jimbo Fisher was the last play calling head coach to win a national championship. He did that in 2013 at Florida State. CJ, here's the other part to this that I think people might miss. Archer 4529 says Ryan Day gave up play calling going into 2024, and Ohio State won the national championship that year.
Yeah,
because Ryan Day's mentor was Chip Kelly, and he had unequivocal trust in Chip Kelly to call the offense. I think if Sark, CJ, had somebody he trusted to do it, I think he might have done it already. He might have made that transition this offseason. But to Jerry's point, I think that's even more of a reason to dig in and say, look, this thing's either going to work or it's not with me calling plays. I'm not putting as big a year as this is. And I think this is me kind of get inside Sark's head. I think he's saying, I'm not trusting anybody else to do this. If this is the greatest offense in school history or it falls flat on its face, he wants to be the one responsible for it.
Well, of course. How could you not want to be the one behind the wheel of the Ferrari that is the Texas offense? Or I guess I should have said Lamborghini. But when you have all these weapons, you at least want to be the guy that sits there and says, hey, I'm the reason why it's successful, right? It should be successful. It should be almost fail-proof, given the weapons and the pieces that they have at their disposal. In terms of Ryan Day, look, Chip Kelly's got so many skins on the wall when it comes to what he's accomplished as a play caller, whereas Ryan Day's had what? Right? I think that was a very easy decision, especially on the heels of losing 4 consecutive times to Michigan as the head coach at Ohio State. Not to mention, he also went out and made Jim Knowles the highest paid defensive coordinator in the entire country that year. So I think for Ohio State and Day specifically, he was like, hey, let's get as talented and smart and intellectual coordinators as possible. So it is fail-proof. Kind of the way that Texas has operated this year by adding Will Muschamp and all of the pieces out of the portal. I don't think Sark will give up play calling unless it's a total disaster of a 14-game, 13-game season.
Jerry, I'm still not ready to stop calling Ryan Day just for men Larry Coker. So I'm going to keep rolling with that as long as I possibly can. As long as Texas and Ohio State are still playing each other, I will feel free to call Ryan Day, address him by that. We got a couple more supers. Let's get to them real quick. Justin with a super chat said, Jerry, opening game Friday. The rivalry is back. Texas City versus Friendswood. Best alma mater win.
Justin, we'll see. I have no answers on this. Friendswood's quarterback's a pretty good player, man. You got to get that guy to the ground. He's about 6'6", 210. After that, Friendswood doesn't have a lot of speed.
All right. And the original Sewer King, thank you for the super chat, said, are we finally done with yoga? Come on, Sark, drop it. I don't know. What's the problem, CJ? Are we rallying against yoga? Like, what's the deal here? I don't know.
Well, look, I think Sark still uses yoga to keep the mind fresh. Sometimes you just got to get outside, get the body moving a little bit. It's probably beats walking hills of campus in 110-degree weather. So, whatever floats the boat, I think keeps the new ideas of running an offense coming in, Jerry. I think that's where you got to go.
Yeah. I look, I'm a yoga person, so. My idiot self has tried hot yoga a few times. And I don't mean laying on the concrete in September in Texas and just doing a couple of hamstring stretches, because that could be the same thing. Like the real hot yoga, that was a beat down. Try 90-minute hot yoga. If anybody ever wants to try 90-minute hot yoga.
I'll try 90 minutes on my couch.
Staying until the ears start to get that feeling, that hot feeling in your ears. Then you'll say, I might have overdone it.
Can't stand that. I've started my 30-minute walks in the morning. It's damn hot enough as it is outside at about 7:45, 8 o'clock in the morning. So that's hot enough for me. All right. That's going to do it for a very busy, very loaded Tuesday night live stream. Jerry, CJ, thank you guys for the time, the knowledge, the intel, expertise as always. Jerry, thanks for hanging out on Tuesdays. I know this is not part of your normally scheduled activity. So thanks for making time to jump on Tuesdays. Thank you to Matthew behind the scenes for producing it, doing the great job that he does. The MVP at On Texas Football is producer Matt, and don't ever forget that. Thank you to our sponsors tonight. Thank you to Prize Picks, was our lead sponsor. Also, shout out to Shields, Hayes City Store, Fun Lane, and Ethos for sponsoring the live stream. If you're not a member over at OnTexasFootball.com, we've referenced the site a few times. Now is the time to get over there. Check out everything we've got on the site. $3 for your first 3 months of access. That's all it takes for you to get into the door. New members, do not wait. This limited time offer will not last forever. Make sure you get over there, check out. CJ's got practice notes from today that we didn't get to tonight on the show. We got recruiting intel. Hank South actually transcribed the entire Arch Manning press conference from today, so you can go check that out if you don't want to sit through the video. Plenty of stuff over on the website. The message board is lively. So, again, $3 for your first 3 months of access over at OnTexasFootball.com. Make sure you check it out. Also, don't forget our meetups with the Third and Longhorn crew. It's the On Texas Football Third and Longhorn Tour tomorrow night, 5 to 8 p.m. at Social Beer Garden in Houston. Bobby and Jerry will both be at that. CJ will be in Houston as well. And then I'll be down in San Antonio. CJ will be there. I believe Bobby will be there as well on Thursday from 5 to 8 at Atlee's Rally in San Antonio. So make sure. It'd be great to see as much of the OTF fam as we can out for those events. Hey, before we're done, make sure you hit that like button on this video. Make sure you're subscribed to the On Texas Football YouTube channel. If you're not, join the 300,000 plus Longhorn fans that have already taken the plunge and subscribed to On Texas Football. Make sure you're doing that. Make sure you got your notifications set. That way, anytime we go live or drop a new video, you won't miss any of our Longhorn coverage or breaking news. Thank you guys so much for the questions and comments and the super chats. If we didn't get to your question, you can address it to Jerry, Bobby, and Blake tomorrow morning, bright and early on Coffee and Football. Jerry, it's Hump Day with Hills tomorrow, so Wednesday should be everybody's favorite day of the week on Coffee and Football. I was waiting for you to add something, Jerry. So thanks for sitting that one out. No, make sure you dress to the guys at Coffee Football. CJ and I will be back tomorrow for the actually, no, we won't be back tomorrow because it'll be the Houston edition. I don't know how we're doing the live stream tomorrow night, but it won't be the normal Wednesday crew, myself and CJ.
Oh, that's true.
You just have to tune in and find out what we've got when we get going tomorrow night from Houston on location. Again, that is Social Beer Garden in Houston, 5 to 8 p.m. with the OTF crew. Also, the guys from Third and Longhorn will be hanging out. So, till then, for Jerry, for CJ, for Matthew, for the entire On Texas football staff, I'm Jeff Howe. Thank you so much for watching and listening. And until next time, hook 'em. Yes,
Hashtag,
as always.